Okay. Cool. So, hi, Hayley.
Hey, what's up?
Just living the dream. How about you?
Same here. Well, I'm starting to live the dream.
Starting to live the dream, yeah.
That's the
Your
plan.
own personal dream. So before we get into the all about you stuff, what was your faking it moment of the week?
My faking it moment of the week. Like a moment where I was faking it?
Yeah. You're
Well,
like,
I guess both overnights this week where I had to go in with enthusiasm to my job when I didn't quite feel that way.
So what is your job?
So right now I'm a psychiatric crisis worker. I'm also a child and youth worker and also a direct support worker. So I have a few jobs. My psychiatric role is my full-time job.
Okay, cool. And overnight, what does that sort of look like for you?
Quite dull. It's a lot of book reading and keeping your ears and eyes peeled as much as you can, keeping yourself up. Just checking on the kids every 15 or 20 minutes, making sure nothing weird's going on in their bedrooms, making sure they're safe.
Okay, so what brought you to that kind of work? That seems very specific and for only special kind of people, I believe.
Right. So for me, it's sort of like the tip of the iceberg in terms of where I want to go in this line of work. So I'm just in the right direction of where I'm headed. I did, as you kind of know, I did like theater and stuff for 13 years in
Tell
school.
the people though, the people don't know, right?
Yeah. So I mean,
theater was a big part of your life before.
Yeah, and that brought me closer to just enjoying working with different kinds of people with varying personalities and different backgrounds.
Lots of personalities.
Yeah, which was the best, right?
Was the best.
Like that was my favorite part about it. It wasn't that I ever ended up wanting to be a little actress like I thought I would, or that I even found it particularly challenging by the end of it all.
Yeah. Started to come sort of like second nature because we were doing it so often.
Yeah.
Like school-wise, because we were performing arts and stuff.
Yeah, and like you looked around and you saw the people who really were actors. You could feel it coming from them.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that by the end of it.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way either.
Right.
Yeah.
But I knew that I was good with people. And I knew that not many people freak me out. There's nothing you can tell me that kind of makes me
you kind of get like more drawn in, I'd almost say.
Yeah. Exactly.
To people who might be different.
Yeah, and I think that set the tone for me, just kind of being able to dive into unique situations with different kinds of people or people going through different things. So I went the kind of social work realm. I did a diploma at George Brown. The program was amazing. Job opportunities, not so much.
Oh, really?
Social
like
work,
as a straight up social worker?
Yeah, I mean, you really need a master's or bachelor's. And I don't know if it's fear that held me back from going that route of going to university, or if me feeling like it just wasn't the right fit.
Okay.
I loved the hands-on learning. I loved the placement. I just loved the way the content was shared with me. But yeah, I still don't know to this day if I'm fearful of going to university.
To do the master's route. Okay.
If that would bring me where I want to be, but I'm not so sure it would now. So anyways, after I did social work, I did 2 great placements. I did a placement at the Center for Women and Transgendered People with U of T.
Okay.
And then I did a placement in a long-term care facility. Both I loved. I thrived.
Long-term in terms of like elderly people.
Yeah, but in a social worker role, and the social worker there really let me kind of be hands-on. So I was really doing the role as she would, which was nice. Anyways, I applied for jobs after that. I ended up being a receptionist at an Audi dealership, which if anyone knows me is like my worst nightmare. Yeah, I grew up with 5 brothers who were all obsessed with cars, and I would have never thought. Anyways, I was there for a year and was like,
it takes you on different.
What are you doing? Yeah. Right? That's, perfect faking it moment, right? Like the smiles. I had men walking by me constantly being like, smile, you look better.
Oh,
just stuff like that, right?
And did your eyes roll out of your head?
God, yeah. They hated me. They hated me, right?
Like, yeah, newsflash, I don't work there anymore.
And I'm just not the type of girl who's going to smile unless she really wants to smile, right?
Yeah.
So
I bet they were met with the frown.
Yeah, a scowl. Tell me to smile, I smile less.
Yeah.
And I reached a moment where I was kind of like, you can't do this. This is so artificial. This is so surface-based. Like, these are not the conversations you want to be having, and you're not living your purpose. So
Is there something specific that brought you to that? Like I always wonder about that for people, because there might be like an instance where you have a conversation with somebody that brings you to that realization, or is it just a moment of sitting there and going, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, it's exactly what it was.
It was for you, yeah.
Restlessness, right? Like starting to think.
Not fulfilled.
Yeah, your head just starts to wander. You know, what exactly are you doing? How have you ended up here? And what exactly is your plan? Are you going to let another year go by?
Right.
Because that's going to be on you. It's not going to be on anyone else.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I started looking into other opportunities. I kind of felt at that point like schooling was going to have to be what I did. Yeah. So I looked into the Child and Youth Fast Track program because I already had my social work diploma.
And that's through Georgetown still?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I loved it. It was 16 months. I did an internship with children with eating disorders at North York General Hospital, and then I worked at a youth homeless shelter, which ended up leading into a job that I worked at for 2 years. Loved it. I just found, I mean, there was way more job opportunities. I mean, it's frontline work. You're not going to make that much paper at the end of the day. But like,
did the purpose like outweigh that for you?
Oh yeah. And it still does to this day. I mean, like I said, I'm where I'm in the direction I should be. So pay can't really be a huge factor just because it matters to me, right? And in this field of work, I make it what I want to make it. The moments that I'm with these kids independently or on my own or with these youth, I mean, the shelter was 16 to 24-year-olds. So like, you know, there are moments you're sitting with a 21-year-old
right,
kid.
And you yourself aren't too far from that.
Yeah, and I can tap into that really easily. And in those moments, it's kind of just like, it's just so intimate. You're not, you're not being watched by people. You get to create these moments with these youth that are really genuine and really important. And you can watch these relationships develop every time you're on shift, right?
Yeah.
The shelter was a bit hard. I mean, you would develop a relationship with a youth, and then the next time you went in, they'd be gone.
That's one of the first questions I thought of was like, how is it to have that such an intimate moment and like to be there for somebody in like sometimes the worst moments and parts of their lives and then like never see them again?
I mean, all I can say to that is I don't know how this will come across, but I'm designed for it. I have this capacity to be able to let that go.
I think that's important, because what else would you do? Like if you were a person to hold on to like every moment of like and obsess about it and you'd go home and it probably would ruin you.
Yeah. And you see staff who it does. Who they just don't have the skin for it. And who knows if I'll have the skin forever. You know,
right. Maybe. It might change.
Yeah. And
might shed that
I'm
skin
open
and
to
be
that.
like, oh no, I can't deal with it.
Exactly. Because you're dealing with a lot of heavy content. I'm dealing with stuff. I'm listening to stories that are not anywhere closely related to anything I've been through.
Right. But you can find the empathy.
My ability to hear it. Yeah.
To hear it. And then also I think like you're a very good listener. And I think that you flipping it back to a moment that you can actually make a difference for somebody is like, many people might just like get so traumatized by something like that and not be able to like work through it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also feel like when I sit down, I'm having those conversations, it's not about like ending the conversation hoping I've changed someone.
You're in the moment and you're like there.
If I have them, if they're smiling for 5 minutes and they're laughing with me, then my job is done that day. Right? Because you could be talking to someone who hasn't smiled all day, who doesn't have something to be carefree about because they're homeless and they don't have a job and things are not on their side right now. Yeah.
So like in your role, is your job to, sorry, there is like a legit windstorm happening. Like we can hear it. It's like really like they're shutting Toronto down. Anyways, if you hear gusts of wind, it's outside. But
it's dramatic effect. We're into that.
We love it. We love it. Soundscapes. So within that, like, in your role, is it to counsel and to like help that person get through whatever they've come to you with, or like,
I would describe it as informal counseling. I mean, at the psychiatric unit, for example, any heavy conversation I have with the youth, if there's any kind of disclosure, I'm naturally reporting that to someone. I'm writing an incident report.
Right.
So they have psychiatrists, children's psychiatrists there, and they have, they're assigned to their own following doctor. So it's informal, of course. So if there's a kid freaking out at 8 o'clock at night, it's me who's going to take them into, we have like individual independent rooms where they can kind of de-escalate, take a breath, and you can do a check-in with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's informal counseling.
Okay.
If they're venting about something they're feeling anxious about, or if they're triggered by something, it's me who's going to sit with them for an hour and help bring them down.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been able to like come across the same person a couple of times and like seen something either positive as like a change, or do you find like people just coming back and it's not like getting much better? Or
at the shelter, you see a lot of that. They're transient, so they're going to pop to all these shelters in Toronto. They're going to get discharged from one shelter for smoking weed in their bedroom. Mm-hmm. They're going to go to another shelter for 2 days, and they're going to come back to your shelter. So yeah, there are times where I've felt I've done really positive work with a youth, and then you see them a month later and they're completely deteriorated.
How does that feel for you though? Like to see that, like, because I know in my work too, when I work with specific individuals, like seeing a positive and then seeing sometimes like 4 or 5 steps backwards is like
the regression.
That part to me is the most frustrating. If I feel like work is undone, because mm-hmm. I know that time is of the essence for somebody mm-hmm. and like working through a process. So like, is that easy for you to deal with? That's like a frustration for me.
I mean, naturally, it's devastating. Like, and I mean, I could really get into my head about it if I wanted to.
Yeah, right.
It's more about my own self-talk in that moment of checking myself and say, listen, like you brought what you could, and you had these moments with this youth, and you moved somewhere that week with them. Mm-hmm. It has to be these little steps.
That's right.
And that's how I would guide or support anyone, by just remembering, like, people are always trying to do everything overnight. People want to wake up the next morning, change or ready. Yeah. And it's like, it's just these little steps. If they took, and I mean, a 20-year-old, what was I doing at 20? I was doing that nonstop. Mm-hmm. I was here, and then 2 weeks later, I was back where I was before. So it's true. Like leaving this space for people to have have that leeway and understanding that it will be back and forth. Mm-hmm. That's life. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, like when it feels like things are good, and then you have to fall back a little bit, or you have to step back because things aren't on track anymore, and then you have to realign yourself again.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of life.
Yeah, and it's important to build that.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, your bounce back time could be, it's like hopefully Absolutely. Shorter and shorter, as opposed to like, I got thrown off and now it takes me like a year to get back on track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your Skills. Ability to cope mm-hmm. increases every time you deal with something. I mean, right. Assuming you have good people around you.
Or you have everything's aligned mentally, and because somebody dealing with one thing mm-hmm. that has another sort of challenge mm-hmm. is going to be totally different.
Right. And exactly. There's certainly so many factors and everyone's so individual. So
not to paint it with like a single brush stroke, but is there like a fundamental, maybe societal thing or something that you see that's like contributing to a lot of the people you're dealing with? Is there something that like we're missing, or society is not doing? Or is it like there's always going to be homeless people, there's always going to be
yeah, I mean, I'm
not to be like you have the key.
Yeah, I just mean, like, I'm not someone who looks at the world in rose-colored glasses, and I'm a realist. I don't know if it's going to make me sound pessimistic, but yeah, I mean, it's just a circle of things. Like, I could say, oh, well, there could be more parenting classes, or there could be more resources for people under the poverty line. Like, mm-hmm. Because, the youth, right, for example, you'll deal with youth who just came from trauma, came from abuse. Their parents came from trauma, came from abuse. And then that pattern's going to mm-hmm. continue on. But then you also have kids who didn't want to come home for curfew and wanted to smoke weed all day in mm-hmm. their bedrooms, and their parents were sick and tired of it, and they decided to leave and go live with their friend.
Right, yeah.
And now they're homeless. Like,
so it's really...
Yeah, I certainly don't spend any time trying to come up with a solution for any of that stuff.
Good. I think that's really like longevity for you.
It's things are so much bigger, like it's larger than me.
Yeah, no, I think that it definitely is. I just have always sort of like, I don't know, I come across certain people, like I always remember passing this one person who, like, he stands at the same station every day, and I would pass him coming to work, and he'd still be there when I'd come back from work. And I'd think to myself, like, I've passed you, and in the time that I've gone away and done this, not to, I'm not trying to compare our situations. I'm sure there's things going on there, but like I'd always find myself thinking like, during that time that you were outside, you know, begging for money or whatever it is, like what else could be done in that time? What else, you know, and it's not, and again, I know that there's challenges and that person's probably faced with different things than I am, but I'd always think about it, and I'd find myself getting mad. Like I'd get mad about it. And I was like, why am I, you know, because I'm like, maybe I should just take him with me and be like, let's go and we can find something. I don't know. It's just,
there are moments where I do feel that way too, where you're like, you know, what are you doing? But just like, not small things, but just like something like self-worth, like going down to something as simple and as big as that. It's like,
yeah, interesting, simple, but also big. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just how you feel about yourself, your ability to like walk into a library and start building a resume, like that takes you feeling good enough to even do that.
Right.
And for some people, that's, I mean, a million miles away from that.
And that's the first step for them.
Yeah.
It could be like the smallest step for, Yeah.
I mean, there are kids who would live at the shelter who were working 2 full-time jobs, banking money and living in that shelter for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, right? So there's a lot of, some people are playing the system for sure.
Yeah. But
and then you kind of look at them and you're like, are they smart?
Right. Or like you got
out of mom and dad's house. Yeah, you got out of mom and dad's house. You're working 2 jobs. They're waking up at 6 a.m. They're going to work. They have a bank account full of money, and they're living in a shelter rent-free with 3 meals a day.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm not saying there's a lot of them that do that.
Well, it happens. Right. I mean, you can't say that it doesn't. But that's not to say that anybody would walk by somebody and just assume that that's the case. But when in any system, people are gonna, you know, take in whatever and make something different of it.
It would be interesting if one day, do you still pass by that guy?
Yeah, I do.
It'd be interesting if one day you sat beside him and talked to him.
Yeah, I've often thought of it.
I do that sometimes. I've literally sat down and had like 30, 45
with people
minutes.
that you don't know necessarily, just homeless people.
Yeah,
what do you find when you do that?
They come off
Hayley just throwing herself
friendly.
In there.
I mean, I'm not necessarily going to sit down to one that feels like a physical threat to me. But yeah, if there's someone who's like, how's your day? And yeah, if they're looking to engage, like you can feel that from them. Yeah, like I've sat down and just chatted.
And what do you find when you do that? That's a podcast, by the way. Right?
They're happy, right? Like it's just this like positive moment where this person is getting some kind of attention from someone that's so far out of their direct world. Because a lot of these people in the homeless community, they're very connected. They all know each other. They recognize each other. They've all been doing the same drill on the street for
they know each other's corners.
Years.
They know all that, right?
So it's probably interesting for them to have someone who will sit down and talk to them.
You're right. Yeah. Because it's their own connection. Like it's their own, not community, it's a community, but it's also like a network, like of people, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And sometimes you're in a conversation with them and, you know, you're not quite sure what you're talking about. But I mean, that's kind of the fun of it too. That's what I kind of like about this job too.
Yeah. You probably don't have any idea what you're going to be met with, right? No. Yeah.
And who are you to tell the person they're wrong or out of their mind? Right?
That's a difficulty for sure too, because sometimes I have talked to different people and that might not be like, you might check them under the category of like, they're all there, like typically, but there's sometimes people like will bring up very interesting theories of life. And you're like, yeah, fuck, that's true. Like, wow.
Right. Or you just like, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Like, even if you know it's way over your head or they might be completely dissociated from reality, you just tell me about it.
Our reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
What's reality?
Yeah, what's reality? Here we go.
Yeah, that's a big conversation.
Yeah, that is a big conversation. So with like your job obviously is very like specific, concrete. You've got that going on. And then you've kind of gone into this really interesting, I mean, not gone into, you've always done this. You've always been a writer, but like you've kind of owned it now. Yeah. So what's that been like?
Well, I think it's kind of just coming from this whole notion that, you know, I do like my jobs, but
Need more?
I need more, and I think I can do more. And I think I can do it more independently. I think that my style of working with people doesn't need to fit into some company's box or, it just...
a system.
Yeah, and I don't want it to. I mean, this sort of new age counseling and therapy and life coaching you can do with people is just so relevant right now, and it's so fresh, and it's like not about medication or diagnosing you, and I love that approach, and that's something I want to do. I don't necessarily want to be sitting with a 17-year-old undiagnosed bipolar kid for the rest of my, you know what I mean? I just want a different niche of people, I think, eventually. So the writing, I'm sort of, you're right, I'm owning it, and I'm using it as a means to kind of build a following and to connect with people and to expose my real to people.
Do you feel that you have to be different then? Like with your real, like, do you feel super real with people in your workplace, like, or clients that you're working with? Or you do, eh?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I mean,
love that. That's
not
the
answer I was expecting. I thought you were just gonna be like, no, I have to tell them what I need to tell them. Not because of you, but just because of like the system, and like people have a hold on you. Can't like look at a kid and be like, get your shit together. Like, I don't know, not that you would say that, but I mean, I don't know.
And I mean, some of the conversations I have with these people, they're private. So it's like, there are some things that I'll need to say depending on kind of rules and regulations, especially on the unit. It's much more clinical, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's a multidisciplinary team. You've got your nurses, psychiatrists, you've got the unit managers, you've got a lot of people involved in their plans of care.
Yeah, and they have their own things they need to like comply to and all this shit.
And I need to comply to.
Right,
so there are certain things, of course, that I'm not going to be able to say to them, but in the moments when I'm with them and I'm connecting with them on a real level, I'm real no matter what. That's so important to me because I don't feel like I can foster a real connection or be a part of any guidance or change if I'm artificial. And trust me, there's plenty of artificial people in this line of work or in any line of work for that matter.
Totally.
Right? I don't have the space for it.
No, you
and
never did.
It sets me apart.
I don't feel like you ever did. You're always very real.
Yeah.
I was getting just Hayley.
Yeah. So, I'm just hoping that the kind of like spoken word or poetry or writing, whatever you want to call it, sometimes I don't really know how to define it.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's a good way for me to build kind of like an online presence in something that matters to me and that is kind of a creative outlet for me, to sort of veer into this kind of life coaching idea.
Okay. What has your process creatively been like, and how has it evolved from, you've written for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I've always written when I'm sad. So usually at the beginning of a piece of writing, I'm like blubbering, like a mess. And then by the end of it, I've like filtered through that intensity. So by the end of it, I can reread it and then start feeling like $1,000,000. Like, oh my God. Like,
so it really is like a
I
purge.
made sense of this. Yeah.
And it's like the form, has it always been like shorter poetry, or has it been like evolved from like longer form stuff? Like what have you been?
I mean, I don't know what I define as long or short. I mean, like they feel long to me. I've been trying to write more short stuff, especially just like for visual content, like on Instagram. Like you don't want to put like so many like big paragraphs because it's a lot for someone to just stop and read.
Yeah, it's not digestible.
That's why I'll put like a couple lines from a piece and then put it on my blog if someone wants to read the rest. Yeah.
So what do you find topic wise that like really, like you say you write when you're sad, but like, is it sad stuff that actually like gets the best of you, or is it stuff like, is there happy stuff that like comes out? I could never write songs if I was happy. Like I could never write a happy song.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a regretful person. So it's not like it's getting the best out of me. Like, oh, I have to write this because I'm miserable. But
it's like an acceptance of like the situation. You're sort of saying like,
I lived this and I'm okay with this. And maybe I'm mad. Maybe there's like a little bit of a revenge piece. Maybe, maybe there's some of that in there, just because that's my flavor to begin with, right? And before I'm going to really forgive someone, I'm going to be pretty not so cool with you for a while.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm all about forgiveness. It's always where I'm headed. I never want to like look back on someone and be you know, negative about them, because they always teach you something. You always grow from it.
Yeah, but then again, you don't want to forgive too quickly.
No.
Because then you're a doormat.
And again, you need to leave space to feel things. You need to leave space to move through things. There's nothing good about sitting on top of something and pretending you're okay with it.
Yeah, because that comes out in like messed up, manifested
It'll surface
ways.
40 years later if you don't go through it.
Yeah, in the form of sickness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mostly, like, back to your question, mostly what I write about is my relationships with men. That's where I feel the most.
Do you think that, like, your writing and how you've discovered this part of yourself, has it sort of then come back to your work and helped you get deeper with anybody, or helped you in any way, do you find? Or like getting closer to yourself is like, For sure.
And I mean, it's a form of getting to know yourself, like you said. It's something that I can encourage and share with some youth that I work with. And it's my own way of coping with real life stuff that I deal with. It's how I get through it, because, you know, I'm not particularly good at receiving advice from people. I can listen to people's advice. I can listen to their words of support, but mainly for me, like, I really have to heal by myself.
You got to arrive.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Do you think that's because, like, you might know the answer to what, like, I didn't want to say that, but like, you know, but it's true. Yeah. Like, you know it, and it's not necessarily like, oh, I know it, so now it is. It's like, I know it, and like, I have to get there. Because you have that intuition, but it's like, I don't want you to tell me what I already know, but like, I need a minute. Yeah. And my mom's always told me I'm too self-aware for my own good. So like, sometimes it's just like people are telling you things, you're just like, I know, right? It's just like, I'm going to keep making these mistakes until I don't want to anymore. And I think this ownership of my writing has come from a tremendous amount of growth that I've gone through in the past year, with men in particular. Yeah. Is there like a specific relationship that led to that, or? My last like long-term relationship was a very pleasant one, a very like amicable split. But yeah, I've had a lot of kind of interesting behaviors come out in my relationships with men in the last like 8 months. Hi, Windstorm. In the last 8 months, I've been in kind of relationships that are actually, on the topic of regression, it was almost like watching me behaving like how I did in my like early 20s. Really? It brought that out of you? Yeah. What brought it out of me? Yeah, that it brought, like, the relationship ending brought that out of you? I don't know. I'm not sure that I made in like sense of that entirely, but yeah, I was watching myself behave in ways that I don't necessarily support in general. Weird. Yeah. What an experience. Like, you're seeing yourself from the outside almost and being like, oh yeah. And like, what are you doing? Why aren't you taking yourself seriously? Why aren't you protecting yourself? And I was in an interesting sort of relationship with someone in October through early January. And he became like a bit of a muse, which is weird because I've never had someone in my life that I would even give that title to. Really? And God knows, I hope that he never knows that, but not yet at least. But he only when you make millions and you're like, right, guess what? Yeah, pulling Adele. So he actually kind of awoken my love for writing again, and it was on purpose. No. Oh, okay. No, not on purpose. I mean, he saw something in me that he was very vocal about, which I loved hearing, obviously. And compliment. What was that? Yeah. Thanks so much. Thank you. Yeah, I'll protect myself. No problem. We had an awful breakup or parting of ways, whatever you want to call it. And I think that it was just a very like it's like everything came to a head, like all this stuff I'd been getting up to the last year really came to a head for me. It was a really unpleasant eye-opening experience, as many are, right? When you're faced with like having to look at something you're doing that you don't find very attractive or that you wouldn't encourage someone else to do, it's a very unsettling experience. But I let it happen, right? Like, I let myself go through it.
And through it, I've just like been writing like a storm. Like I just like haven't stopped, and it just like turned on this light switch in me.
Beast.
Yeah.
And like, did the interest in life coaching come from that too? Like like the writing part?
No, the life coaching stuff I've always been thinking about. It's, well, not always. I'd say like the past like 3 or 4 years. It's like, how am I gonna pull this off? How am I gonna be me in this industry or this field of work? And how will I be successful?
Right. And still do the work.
And I wasn't talking about it. It was just something I thought about in my own head. Like I just wasn't brave enough, I would say, to just like put it out there and start navigating what that's gonna look like. And again, through this person who I met, his bravery and confidence around his dreams and goals was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
Oh.
And he was so kind of egoic and crazy, almost like manic, the way he would share how much he believed in himself. And I'd never seen someone
Anybody
talk like that
yeah.
about like
that can be really like almost like you get high off of that.
Yeah.
But it's exhausting.
Yeah, he was definitely exhausting. But I still found it very inspiring. Not that I ever wanted to be just like him. I'm not that kind of person. I was just
But you maybe thought like, why not? Why don't I feel this?
And I was
or
just
can
like,
I have
why
this
don't
sort
I
of...
talk about these things, right? Like he just all like nonstop is talking about his visualizations of his goals and what he sees himself or what he knows he's going to be doing. And it's like, God, like I need to make more space to have these conversations, because that's how I'm going to get the ball rolling, right? Sitting on it or keeping inside is not going to get things started, right? So I'm really grateful that I met this person.
Even though it was like, because those things can have like two faces, right? It doesn't have to be all just negative. Yeah,
it was supposed to be 3 months, and that's what it was. And I took from it what I needed to, and I wrote some damn good pieces of writing about that guy. You know, like pieces of writing that make me feel good and alive and whole, you know? So, and I figured that because I have this creative outlet, it's a good way, like I said, to build a following, right?
Yeah,
I have sort of like something to plug into versus just like saying I'm a life coach all of a sudden.
Right. Yeah. You've got a body of work that you're adding to and like cultivating and everything.
Right. And once
it feels good to look back at something like that. And even if it is something visual or like physical, like you can look back at an Instagram feed, sure, whatever. Like that's amazing to be able to see everything that you've put down there. And it's no longer just in your journal, like under your bed.
Right. And I can start to change it. Right? Like once I figure out what I'm going to do life coaching wise, like in terms of getting accredited or getting some sort of certification specifically in it, I can start changing the tune of that page too, right? I can have more open dialogue, right? I can have more pieces directly related to my skills or expertise in connecting with people. I can change it, but then I already have that following that already likes me or respects me or is looking forward to hearing from me. Right?
That's smart. Look at that.
I feel like a million other people figured that out a long time ago.
No, but like it's really, I think it makes sense. It's like it's both artistic but also has like a businessy sort of flair to it, and like I love that kind of stuff. So respect for that. But what has it been like, because you started actually doing like performance based stuff, like you've actually started like reading at open mics and like or doing poetry, like so it's so different than theater, because theater's like, I mean, you've come from performance, but...
Yeah, well, because this is my stuff, right? Yeah. It's like we would be reading like monologues from plays or whatever. Yeah, like occasionally we did write our own stuff.
Yeah, but it was very seldom.
Dominantly, it was stuff that we would pull off the internet or from some play we were reading.
Some dusty old book.
Yeah, exactly. Hella dusty. And so it's where that's where I'm supposed to be in terms of sharing my content. I feel better up on a stage sharing it. I mean, every time I do it, I feel a little bit more relaxed about it. And I feel proud sharing my own stuff. So there's a different sense of like, you know, how I feel on stage, like sharing who I am with people. It's like a very unapologetic experience. And then to see people in the crowd who you can hear like responding to your content or feeling your content. I mean, what's better than that?
Yeah, not much else.
No, like nothing's better than a connection with someone. So
has that community been interesting to get involved with? Like I know like music community, comedy community, but like what's that like? It's poetry that you're reading, right? So what's that like?
I mean, the communities, like I said, they're very supportive. I mean, I haven't built like a ton of like friendships yet within the community. The Toronto Poetry Slam, where I've read twice now, they do bi-weekly poetry readings at the Drake Hotel. They do like an open mic part and then like a slam part. And I think next I'll do a slam. I've been like a little nervous.
Oh,
but
can you, I don't know if you want people to come to that, but let me know.
I will. I had to do like I was a sacrificial poet before a slam. So I got like a practice round.
A what?
So they do like.
Yeah, I'm going to need an explanation.
They do a sacrificial poet who goes up before the slam starts to be like a practice person that they vote on.
Oh, okay.
So one day I had gone and I signed up for the open mic, and she came up to me a few minutes later. She goes, "Hayley, I'm really sorry, but there's no open mic component tonight. Like, would you be okay being the sacrificial poet?" I'm like, okay, like whatever. Like, I came here to read. Like, I may as well do it.
I'm here anyways.
Yeah. So like I had a little practice of what it feels like to have people like vote, which is a weird experience because it's poetry. It's like, how do you vote?
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah. Like, how do you vote on someone's poetry? But I guess it's just the fun of it, right? It's been around for so long, and people are really supportive even if your vote isn't amazing or whatever. So the community seems really inclusive and sweet. Even like the online Instagram community. I mean, the amount of poetry accounts, like,
yeah,
it is endless. And I just didn't even think, because like I hadn't, aside from like some of the bigger poets like Rupi Kapoor, R.M. Drake, like whatever, those people who you see people share their quotes
all the time.
Yeah. But I mean, there's just so many beautiful people sharing all of their stories and their truth, and everyone's just been so sweet and interactive even.
That's awesome.
That's been a really nice feeling.
Sweet.
I can't imagine you can be like a snooty poet who like doesn't want to hear other people's poetry or like want to be supportive of how brave you have to be to put this stuff into words.
Yeah. And I feel like people would just jump on anybody who is like weird about it right away.
Right.
Because like, screw
like,
you.
why are you a hater?
Yeah.
Like, no one likes a hater.
Yeah. No one likes
like
a
if you're
hater.
going to be a hater, like be quiet about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hate in silence.
Hate in the corner.
Yeah. Everyone knows that, right?
Yeah, everybody knows
if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't
say it at all.
Yeah.
Comes back around. So would you be willing to read some stuff for us?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Do I have like a time frame or like?
No. Okay. You can just do your thing.
So this is called I'm Not Going to Write About You Anymore. I'm not going to write about you anymore. I'm going to leave this here. This will be goodbye. I can't watch and wait. I won't stop time anymore. I will take my hand in the hard to breathe moments. I will help myself back up for air. I was a blessing, and I'll stay a blessing long after these days. I can't put you into words anymore. Soon I won't be able to see your face or remember the smell you had that I didn't even like. This morning I threw out your bag of stuff on my way out the door, on my way out into today, into all the spaces you take up and where I never fit. I am seeing through my eyes again, and I am unlearning the words you placed in the empty holes you found inside me. I will be more of me than I ever have been. I'll be protected and open all at once. I'll say it because I've said it before. I will rise every time, broken wings and a bent beak, up through smokes and flames again, soaring through the turbulent skies and the calmest sunsets. You'll see my colors even through the thickest clouds, and you will take me in like I am a great wonder, all wide-eyed with a dropped jaw, your neck contorted just to get a glimpse. I'll be so free, and baby, you'll be trapped in the words that I once wrote. So that's one.
Yeah. So good.
See. And pretty helpless and wouldn't ask for help anyways. Dimples and thick, low words. Youthful like brand new. Aged like he can meet me there. Totally distracting and obviously my fault. Knew better and knew I should. Roughing it like it's a lifestyle. Totally distracted like he's not even here. He's best described as art personified and is just as he should be. I found some type of love in him. Some part of him is me, and I already miss him. From my belly, I know that this is it. It won't be like this forever. His eyes looking into yours will be something you hold back tears thinking about as you fall asleep. Wanting to be next to him, but it will be a moment that is only right now. Our minds will yearn for the other, not understanding why they can't touch again, sing again, or lay beside the other. Every memory will repeat itself, the perfect way you took my hand in the back seat and the way you rested between my legs as I read. Who were we then? The idea of you being someone I have to remember would never have stopped me from wanting right now. Only you and I know what happened here, and until it's over, I am here for you, this and right now. One more?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope I turned into a beautiful song. I hope you crushed me down, soaked me in tears, and put me into lyrics only I would know are empty. I hope you're humming me in the shower as you fantasize about your acceptance speech at the Grammys. I only hope to be a beautiful verse or a sweet melody. Turn me into a song and take from me. You'll want every bit for the moments you're going to be remembering me. Make me a song so you can have me on three-peat, back to back to back. Take some time to breathe and put your mind at ease and let me be a song. Let me inside you and into the belly of your guitar and out the tips of your fingers, onto the paper and out of your mind. Release me and use me only to help yourself. We both know you need it. Pause me or play me because those are the only options you have left. You've got all the material you're gonna get. Write me down, mix me up, and master me. I hope you make me into a song that is as true as I am and that could never leave someone feeling alone. Like the only single thing you could be feeling right now. I hope I get stuck in your head after working on me all night in the studio, plugging and pulling and feeding me line after line. Deciding and erasing and starting all the way over. Make me a timeless track, one that you feel because you know you feel me. My song should feel like a hug and a kiss, and I'll be a love song because all you ever received from me was love. It's the least you could do. After taking and taking because I was giving and giving. Make me into a song or 10 songs. Divide me up into all the pieces you think I am. Just shut up and make me a song.
Yes. Thank you so much.
No
that was
problem.
great, Hayley.
Thanks.
Where can people find your things?
So you can follow my Instagram at Hayley Lynn P. It's Hayley, not to be confused with all the other spellings of Hayley. So it's Hayley, Lynn, LYNNP. And my WordPress is Hayes Hard in the Paint, which you can also find on my Instagram.
And we'll link all of those accounts into our show notes.
Perfect.
So people can find you.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
I'm done.
Awesome.
So everyone, thanks for joining us for another episode, and reminder to like, comment, and subscribe. Faking It is part of the Evoke Media Podcast Network, and you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, and YouTube at Evoke Media Podcast Network and at Faking It. Thanks, Hayley.
Thanks, Liz.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been an Evoke Media Podcast.